Welcome back to the Freelance Tea Break, the short sweet podcast you can enjoy whilst you're me. Let's talk about green flags and red flags when it comes to clients. Because unfortunately, we are seeing a little bit more red flag behaviour from clients. Well, I'm seeing a few more stories of it, I think, because of the cost of living, factor lights, various other things. I don't know whether it's because everything, all the news and everything is making people a bit more bitter and things like that. But we're seeing a little bit more red flag behaviour, and we need to spot those ones. But also, let's celebrate some green flag behaviour. So I'm going to start positively with some green flag behaviour. So these are the clients where you're like, yes, easy, yes, I want to work with you. Yes, please. So this is obviously going to range depending on what your freelance specialism is. But generally, a clear, detailed project brief and requirements from the start. Now, this is going to vary because, say, for myself as a coach, I often get people coming to me and they're like, I'm feeling lost and stuck. And they don't necessarily know what the problem is then. That's a different situation. But if you are a freelancer that deals with project work and tasks and things like that, having somebody that has a clear idea is fantastic. That said, having someone who isn't necessarily a red flag. It's just perhaps an amber flag, and you need to have a system in place to get the most clarity out of them. So it might be a great onboarding questionnaire. It might be asking the right questions in a discovery call, getting really clear. If they are someone that has had a history of working with freelancers and never getting what they want, that's a bit more of a red flag than an amber flag. Number 2, this is a non-negotiable for me. Willingness to sign a contract or service agreement. If anyone is not willing to do those things and they want to work with you, that to me is a massive red flag. Why do they not want to agree to your terms? If there's something in the terms that they want to question, absolutely have that discussion. But if they just don't want to sign a contract or a service agreement, that's an easy no. Why? There's too many questions about why they wouldn't want to do that. Number 3, they respect your pricing and they don't immediately try to get a discount or to negotiate you down. Now, there will be times when perhaps a discount or negotiation is acceptable. But if they immediately come to you and say, I want to work with you, but I don't have the budget for what you're charging there, I want you to charge less. If you're a long-time listener, you'll know my reasoning. My rule is don't charge less, offer less. So if they can't afford how much you're charging, then they need to adjust their expectations of what they get for what they pay. So I tend to use social media as an example because it's an easy one to adjust it to. But say you're a social media manager charging, I'm just going to pluck a number from the air, £500 for 3 social networks for maybe 3 posts a week. Quite low actually, but if the client can't afford that, then they need to reduce expectations. And if their budget is half that, then you need to half what you offer. So 1 social network for that time, or less posts, or something different, but you reduce how much you offer, not how much you charge. So that is definitely a biggie. And if they say anything like, I can get that cheaper with so-and-so, or that's you're charging a lot, anything like that, it's kind of disrespectful. You don't go into the supermarket and try to haggle people at the tills, do you? So yes, generally, if they respect your pricing, that is wonderful. Professional communication and timely responses. And this is going to vary to different people. Some people absolutely love like voice notes, and some people have no problem working through WhatsApp. The key here is, are they respecting the boundary that you've set around communication? So if you've said you don't like voice notes and they still keep sending you voice notes, then that's more of a red flag or an amber flag. That's not a green flag. So it's really great if they are professional. And again, professional is, it varies depending on everyone. So I don't mind a more relaxed attitude. I don't mind a friendly attitude. But if somebody comes to me and they're immediately being offensive or anything like that. That's unprofessional. Have the fourth one is, have they got, oh no, it's the fifth one actually. Have they got a realistic budget and timelines? So are they coming to you last minute expecting the world for a small amount, or are they coming to you and saying, can you make me viral in a week? These kind of things. If they have very big expectations that's outside what you know is possible, then that might not be an ideal fit. The next one, if they have had great experience working with other freelancers, it's a bit of a, to poorly quote Taylor Swift, I'm the problem, it's me. If you find a client comes to you and they've said, oh, I've had all of these bad experiences with other freelancers, maybe they're the problem. Maybe it's not all the other freelancers. Everybody has worked with somebody who hasn't worked out, that's fine. But if there's a consistent pattern and every freelancer disappoints them or anything like that, they're likely to be a challenging client. They're kind of also tied in with the money side of things. Are they happy to provide a deposit or agree to payment milestones? That kind of ties in a bit as well to the contract side of things, and accepting your pricing. And also that I think it's really great when they can come to, if someone comes to me and they want to work together and kind of collaborate, and for me, there's a values element as well. I love it when clients want to improve things and better support people. And also for me, there's an element of, I need to know that they are empathetic to others around them and they support similar causes or have slightly similar beliefs. That's going to vary depending on who you're working with. But it's really good to kind of get a good conversation going with them and know that you're going to enjoy working with them. So those are a few green flags, things like, so just to recap, being kind of clear or being willing to be clear on what their brief is, signing the contract, paying the money, respecting your just basically generally respecting your boundaries. Some red flags, and these are going to be like repetition, I think, for some of these because we've looked at the green flags, but if they request any work before a contract is signed or payment is agreed, that's a bit of a red flag for me. Also, any company that says 90 days are their standard is a red flag for me. It's unnecessary in this time and age. And I know some of the more old school, actually things like universities and huge companies have this 90-day thing, but actually it's not really acceptable nowadays. There's no good reason for them to have a 90-day payment period these days. So that for me is a personal red flag. I will not work. In fairness, most of my coaching clients either pay upfront or it goes through Access to Work, and that's fine. I know it's going through that system. But generally, in the past, when I've worked with people, 30 days is the absolute limit I would go to. It's unnecessary after that. If they use phrases like, it's an easy job, it won't take long. These are all tricky phrases because they're basically already trying to suggest that you shouldn't be charging them very much. They're also likely to be the ones that at the end of the project, when everything's signed off, will say, could you just do this? Could you just that? And it ends up snowballing into lots of extra tasks. So the next red flag, they're very unclear or actually this one, constantly changing the project scope. And this is something I've actually heard a few people say recently, where they've had clients who have had multiple discovery calls. And if between each of the discovery calls, I mean, really, people only need one, maybe two at the most. But if you have multiple and they've already changed the goalposts each one, that's a big red flag because they're not going to be consistent and they are going to change the scope and they'll expect you to change with it and not change your pricing. A massive red flag for me is anyone that says, can you work for this for the exposure? There are times when I will do free things like maybe speaking at local networking events, things like that, going on podcasts. That's all more PR side of things. But anyone that asks you to perform your job for exposure, especially the worst is when it's big companies that do it, or companies where you know full well the person asking you is being paid. So promises of exposure or future work for me, big red flag. That I'm willing to provide a deposit or use secure payment methods. Yeah, if they say that they want you to use some obscure payment method or Bitcoin or anything like that, that for me is a red flag. Poor communication or excessive urgency. And again, this is one that does depend on who you're working with. I work with a lot of people who are in your division, in particular, a lot of ADHD people. Communication can be really challenging and being consistent can be really challenging. So I'm really flexible on that kind of thing. But I think the excessive urgency is one that is worth seeing. Like if it's somebody that suddenly needs something right now, right this minute, has to be done. But then when you put your invoice in, they take like a month or 2 months to pay you. Suddenly it's not very urgent. It kind of always brings to my mind the phrase, your emergency is not my urgency. And also, if somebody wants to you to do something very urgently, very quickly, then they'll be very motivated to pay an extra rush fee or pay before it starts to make sure it gets done. Another red flag is kind of one I touched on with the green flags, just a general disrespect of your boundaries. If you have set boundaries with clients, and they will range different things for different people, but if you are consistently having to reconfirm your boundaries with them, that is a big red flag. And it shows that they don't really respect you and your boundaries. What else have I got? I've got a long list. Disrespect of your boundaries. Also, your working hours. If they are the kind of person that messages on a Friday night and expects an answer, and that's not a time that you're being paid for, red flag. History of conflicts with other freelancers. So again, that's something I touched on a little bit earlier. If they have a lot of conflicts with the other freelancers talk. So if you keep doing the same thing to a bunch of freelancers, we will all talk and not work with you because nobody wants to work with that difficult client. So yeah, if someone has a lot of conflicts with the freelancers, they may be the problem. What else? Oh yeah, and just reluctance generally to sign a contract, agree to terms. Oh, and actually one I haven't written on this list, but I've just thought of. Anyone who insists on having all conversations on a phone call that you can't record, that to me is a red flag. It's great now with things like Zoom and stuff like that because you can record it and come back, and like even messaging apps and things like that, you have a record of what's been said. If they always want to speak in person or on the phone and they don't want to have a written word record of what's been said, that's a red flag for me. So some of these things are things that you can spot in your discovery call, so I have an online sort of questionnaire when people join for a discovery call, which helps iron out a few things. You can also have a look on their online social media and see that kind of thing, if that helps, and reviews of the company. If they're a big company, you might want to look at Glassdoor, which has some reviews and things like that. And get everything in writing is kind of a big one for me, just to make sure everything's clear, we don't forget anything, and you can go back and say, as discussed in this email, or as discussed in this contract, or stated in this contract. And more than anything, it's your gut. Your gut instinct will tell you. And sometimes we ignore our guts because the money's good, or we don't have a huge amount of work coming in at that time, or someone else has suggested it's a good thing for you to do. But I would say all of the times that I've worked with a difficult client have been times I've ignored my gut. So I will probably do something at another day, on another episode on, is it gut feeling or is it nerves, and what the difference is. So if you'd like to hear that, do let me know. But yeah, I hope that was helpful. Generally, just about respect, really. Do you feel respected by them? Do you respect them as well? Is everything on paper? Are people being paid? Those kind of things are all kind of red and green flags. But I'd love to know if there's any you would add. Is there any I've missed, or any that you've kind of added to your list, because it is useful to have a list of these things, that if your gut is like, no, go through that list and be like, then maybe that's why. I've done an episode a long time ago, I think, about values as well, and how a clash in values can lead to that gut feeling as well. So I will try and link to that if I can find it. But I hope that was useful. I'd love to know what your red and green flags are. Do have a wonderful freelance week.